What's up, everybody? It's the Magic Perspective with your man Eric Wilson, alongside my brother, Mr. Alex Fleming. Man, we ain't done this in a minute, brother. How are you?
Feels good. It's glad to be talking basketball.
I know. We've got a lot to get to, but we got two guests joining us tonight. First off, my man Michael Caratanudo, Believe in the Pac-12 podcast out there in Arizona, and from the 3-Point Conversion Sports Show, Mr. Danny Thompson. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Magic Perspective. How is everybody doing tonight?
I mean, it's the week before the NBA season, and all through the house, players were signing contracts. Owners were getting later.
I mean, it has been with such a condensed season. You know what I'm saying? I actually feel like I love this type of free agency because every single day, moment, second, people are going from one spot to another. And I mean, just the list from top to bottom of free agents who have already made their homes somewhere else. It's just crazy. I mean, I'm looking at the list right now. And first off, Gordon Hayward is now in Charlotte. Bogdanovich is now in Atlanta. You've got guys like Gordon Dragic, who actually stayed with the Heat. I'm sorry?
Rondo's in Atlanta.
Yeah, Rondo went there. Marc Gasol going to the Lakers. I mean, I'm looking at this, and then Alex and I talked about this earlier, and I guess we'll get into it. But the fact that Dwight Howard's a Philadelphia 76er, Alex thinks it's a good thing. I'm like, didn't we learn from previous past decisions of bringing in centers and just stocking them for God knows whatever? But it's one of those things. But Danny, let me ask you, man. I mean, this is to me, this is your expertise. Looking at this list of free agency, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, this reminds me of the free agency class of about 5 years ago. The summer of spending for bad contracts. There's going to be some teams looking at these contracts in about 2 years and scratching their head, wondering when they're going to be able to get some of these contracts off the books. I mean, Gordon Hayward in Charlotte. I love Gordon Hayward being in Charlotte. I hate the fact that I think it's an overpayment for his services. I understand why they did it. Small, teams that don't have the major market, you have to overpay. It's in every small market team. Jeremy Grant getting $60 million from the Pistons for 3 years. That's scary. Bertans got 85 from Washington. Joe Harris got 76 from Brooklyn. It was a premium on shooting, and there's a lot of movement. I love it, but it's going to be some teams kind of scratch their head in about a year or two.
So, Mike, let me get you in on this conversation because you're a guy out west, and I guess the one big name that is still out there is, of course, Anthony Davis. He's an unrestricted free agent. Haven't heard yet if he's actually going to stay with LeBron. I mean, that is, from my estimation, that is the intent. The two of them are going to stay together and try to, win back-to-back. But, looking at the West, we've always predicted the West to be the powerhouse conference in the NBA. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, come on. The last 10 years, there's been a good team or two in the East. But, I mean, pretty much since – I shouldn't even say 10. Pretty much since 2005, it's been all Western Conference, in my opinion. With, yes, good teams in the East that could compete. But for the most part, it's like the East is sending teams to the playoffs, as you guys know, 5 games under 500, almost 10 games under 500. And in the West, if you're 7 games over, you're missing the playoffs. I mean, on a yearly basis. So, but no, I mean, look, I poked around with a few people that I know that are in LA and around LA, and they all just said pretty much the same thing Woj is saying, that like they're just taking their time. They're going to get it done. I mean, the longer it goes, the conspiracy theorists think that maybe the Clippers try to swoop in and take Anthony Davis. I doubt that would happen. But no, I mean, he goes back there. But, man, I really love what Portland did. I mean, look, I've always loved Damian Lillard, and the fact that they were able to pull off some trades. Carmelo Anthony took his role. He's not going to start. He can play off the bench. You get Cantor back. You have, McCollum and Lillard, and it's like, come on, man. Like, I love what they did. I know the Lakers with, like you said, Gasol, that drove me absolutely insane. But I'm sure his brother told him to go to LA. And I don't know, man. I like what Portland's done. I do like, not even being a homer, I do like what the Suns have done. The only team to go 8-0 in the bubble. I mean, I know they didn't go to the playoffs, but 8-0 in the bubble. the Suns, I mean, the Suns were shakers, which is, I mean, I think almost made everybody that are Suns fans truly almost pass out because you guys have seen from a national level. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs in a decade since Steve Nash left. And they always just seem to be getting rid of stuff at the trade deadline. They signed.
Plus, you throw in now that you throw in the fact that they got Chris Paul.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you love it. You put Chris Paul. It's good for DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul knows how to play with big men. Obviously, it's going to be great for Devin Booker. We saw how much better Booker was last year. Obviously, not having to play point guard because that was always the issue here in Phoenix. Like, we need a point guard for like 4 years. They're like, they need a point guard. They need a point guard. They never got one. Devin Booker, not that he can't play, but we see how much more effective he is with a point guard. Ricky Rubio was solid last year. You upgrade and get Chris Paul. I mean, look, what they've done is very awesome. So I can't wait to see, again, more of the battles, especially with people would call the bottom feeders in the West.
Yeah. Alex, I got to go to you from a Magic perspective because this is a team that you and I and Danny have covered over the last couple of seasons. So now we find out that, they did re-sign MCW, but DJ Augustine has left and gone to Milwaukee. What does this say now about Milwaukee bringing in that veteran leadership, a 10-year guy in DJ Augustine, and then to the flip side of that, looking at the Magic, is this just they open the door so that the rookie Cole Anthony can just slide right in and play alongside Markelle Fultz and Evan Fournier and the rest of that crew?
All right, your first question. It tells me that Milwaukee is desperate. They know that Giannis can up and leave after this year. So what do? You get rid of George Hill. You get rid of Bledsoe for some reason, and you give away picks so you can get Holiday and Augustine and play a more up-tempo offense so that way it can feature Giannis down low and get them more shooters that can be consistent. If they don't get it done this year, look for Giannis to go to Miami and be with Jimmy Buckets and that young team on the rise in Miami. Now, as far as Orlando is concerned, it's pathetic. Actually, I think it's a bag of, but I'll leave that at that. You didn't do anything. Who did you sign? Who's your big name? Dwayne Bacon? Okay, so you let Augustine go. You re-signed or didn't trade away Fournier. We still have nobody at the small forward position. Is Chuma Okeke going to play this year? If he is going to play, now you got Okeke playing without Jonathan Isaac. What are you going to do with Mr. Gordon? What's the plan with Mr. Gordon? Vooch. Okay, fine. You got Cole Anthony, but he's a rookie. And Fultz has finally played a full year. He's no longer a rookie. Do you trust Fultz in that backcourt? Oh, I'm sorry, in that front court. My apologies. You needed to make a move. You needed to have some scores. You needed another consistent rebounder, and you did none of that. Why are you standing still when free agency has been happening? I'm not saying go out and spend $30 million a year on Gordon Hayward. What I am saying is that maybe you could have grabbed Serge Ibaka before he went to the Los Angeles Clippers, since Toronto was having a fire sale, or maybe, just maybe, you could have paid Sweet Lou some money so you could have some instant offense coming off of your bench. But no, let's just stick with our guns and stick with what we have. We're happy with being mediocre.
This is why I love doing the Magic perspective with Alex, as he does not hold back when it comes to this team. Danny, I want to jump back to you because I want to look at that Charlotte team right now as currently constructed. You being a guy in that area, what is your three-point conversion when it comes to this team? And the fact that now LaMelo Ball is there. I guess my biggest question is his father really going to try and challenge the GOAT to a one-on-one sometime this season?
Listen, he can challenge him all he wants to. He's talking about $200 million. So, the vibe here in Charlotte has been the most excited the city has been since with a draft pick since Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, maybe because I don't remember the buzz being this big on Baron Davis or even Emeka Okafor. LaMelo Ball's coming in here to a city that has been wanting to win. They've been wanting to embrace themselves with a star because if you look at the franchise's history, the only player that's been here that's been a star player long enough has been Kemba Walker. Most of the stars get traded within the first 5 years or don't even last 5 years. Remember, Larry Johnson lasted 4. His back went out. He was shipped to New York. Then Alonzo Mourning, situation with contracts, he ended up getting shipped for Glenn Rice. Rice was an all-star. Rice got shipped out for Eddie Jones. And the cycle continued Baron Davis was that guy, but they moved to New Orleans. So when the Hornets came back, it was Emeka Okafor, and then you had Gerald Wallace, but nothing had been consistent for years. Season tickets and ticket inquiries had went through the roof. And now with LaMelo Ball, Charlotte is actually on a national scale. Gordon Hayward coming over here was another piece. Yes, it's a piece you overpaid for in a lot of cases, but sometimes you have to overpay. Look at the Magic. When the Magic overpaid for Rashard Lewis, when nobody was going to give him $126 million, he was an integral piece of what the Magic was trying to do around Dwight Howard. What Charlotte's doing, if they can land Hassan Whiteside to a contract, it puts them right in the place of number 10, maybe number 9 in the Eastern Conference. That's all you want to do. If you can get to number 10, you get to the play-in game this year. This year is different. There's 3 play-in games. If you get to 10, you get one shot of making the playoffs. And that's all you need to do. It's taking the steps forward. And to Alex's point about the Magic, I got a question for you. What were they supposed to do? They had no cap space. They had none whatsoever. They're not doing anything next summer. And here's the other part. Cole Anthony is going to slide in for DJ Augustine's spot. It was a perfect slide in. Cole Anthony, if Steve Clifford allows Cole Anthony to be Cole Anthony, the player that he was in high school, let his New York swagger be on the floor, he's starting by midseason.
Wow. Okay.
Dark horse rookie of the year candidate.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Talking about my man, Danny Thompson, 3-point conversion, Alex Fleming from the Florida Sun, and Michael Caratanudo, Believe in the Pac-12 podcast here on the Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric. So, Mike, I want to go to you and let's talk a little more about this Phoenix team for a minute here, because this was a team that, yes, 8-0 in the bubble. They have a young nucleus of just talented individuals. What is your perspective, if you will, when it comes to, they've had this shortened season. They're about to start in a month. We are back to NBA basketball December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. I mean, what is your expectation for the Phoenix Suns?
I think, just with Chris Paul alone, you look at what they said, and I do think Oklahoma City had talent last year, but they had like a 0.02% chance of making the playoffs before the season even started, when it started on time in like October, November. You add Chris Paul to that. I am bummed about losing Kelly Oubre Jr. because that guy was all energy, wanted to be here when the team sucked. And unfortunately, with the injury, wasn't in the bubble. So I think, again, in NBA terms, that did make him expendable. But I don't think you replace that energy. The guys that they have play well. But I expect them to be battling for that 8, 9, 10 area. Chris Paul, knock on wood, stays healthy. Devin Booker, too. He's had issues with the hand. But, DeAndre Ayton, here's the thing with DeAndre Ayton, and it's been said around here a lot, but when you first come in the league, he said his first game when they played the Clippers, he was getting banged around by DeAndre Jordan like he was, a 7-foot, paperweight. And he just said he needed to get tougher. Well, that's been the knock on him. His shot's gotten better. He always had a decent shot. He needs to get more assertive at the rim. If he does that, especially offensively, which very rarely around the rim are they going to call offensive foul. Yes, a charge, but I'm just saying he's not running down. If you get physical down low, that'll be a whole other element, because then you'll see Booker draining shots. Chris Paul will drain when he has to. He's gotten to that point of his career where Chris Paul can hit the shots. He'll take the mid-range shot. I'm all for it, because once somebody steps inside the three-point line, nobody plays defense on them, which I always think is hilarious. But with Chris Paul leading that team and the leadership, it's kind of almost like in Charlotte. I look at Gordon Hayward for LaMelo Ball. Yes, LeVar Ball is, the challenging Michael Jordan and him running his mouth, but someone like Gordon Hayward is actually probably a better influence on LaMelo, even though he said he's appreciative to be back in the States and how crazy it was to what he did. But that's what Chris Paul is for DeAndre Ayton, for a Devin Booker, who's not done anything wrong, but he will elevate all their games. So if they're not in the playoffs, if they're not competing, I would be very, very surprised. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually are a buyer at the trade deadline and bring somebody in. That's to be seen. We'll see who's doing what. But, Robert Sarver, actually, letting James Jones actually do this, people in Phoenix are like, they're still sitting down because they feel like if they get up, like they're going to wake up from their dream that Robert Sarver is actually doing this.
Fair enough. Alex, I want to go back to you because you brought up a team that was a sleeper last year, and a lot of people, I think, underestimated them. But we did see that Bam Adebayo signed the max contract, and now this brother's down there in the 305. So let me ask you, when we look at Miami, are they right now, as constructed, a top 3 team? I'll even say maybe top 2 in the Eastern Conference. And if so, what are we expecting from the Heat this year?
Well, you could thank Boston for breaking things up and sending Kemba Walker to New York. Oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for him. He deserves better than that because New York is where you go to die. I mean, Brooklyn's the place you want to be if you are going to go to New York, but I digress. Scary Terry is already gone. He's in Charlotte. Gordon Hayward is now in Charlotte. And Jason Tatum, I'm glad you mentioned rookie contracts signed for the max deal as well. There's only 2 rookies that actually deserved the max deal in my eyes. Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo signed the escalator clause so that way he can reach the peak on his 6-year, $195 million contract. And he's worth every penny. Interior defense, rebounding, intensity, has a consistent shot. If you weren't paying attention, he was hitting some jumpers in the bubble. They weren't just from 5, 7, or 10 feet. He had 13, 17, a couple of 20-footers. He's got a shot, bro. And by the way, he saved a couple of games. Do we remember the Boston series? Without Bam Adebayo, their defense goes down and they don't beat the Boston Celtics. Can you name me a team in the East that can hang with the Miami Heat when it comes to intensity, speed, three-point shot making, and time of possession? No, you can't because there isn't one. The one that you could have named was Boston. But as you can see, they're starting over again. Now, I will say this. They are one key piece away from actually being able to contend with LA. And I mean the Clippers and the Lakers. Because now that we're going to have a solid season and we've done through all these COVID protocols and Paul George knows that this is probably the last time he's going to be able to play with Kawhi, Miami needs to prove that this whole bubble thing wasn't a fluke. Philadelphia is a fluke without James Harden. New York, why are we even mentioning them? Cleveland, Indiana, Chicago, Atlanta, nobody wants that smoke. And Charlotte's not ready. Miami needs to be that key piece to push forward in the Eastern Conference so you have a real representative.
So are you putting them at top as the top dog in the Eastern Conference right now? Feet to the fire, yes or no?
You still have Doc Ock in Toronto. He didn't let go of Gasol and Ibaka for nothing. I see this being Toronto, Miami, all the way in the East. Everybody else is just eating popsicles on the side.
Okay, fair enough. Danny, let me ask you, or I'll give you a chance because I see that expression you're making. I'm gonna give you a chance to respond to Mr. Fleming.
Does Jason Tatum not deserve the max contract here in this situation? I forgot Jason Tatum. You forgot Jason Tatum played basketball? Because Jason Tatum's one of the 25 best players in the NBA right now. And his extension was well worth it. When you said 2 players in that draft class, I was wondering where you're going to mention Jason Tatum. Because if you look at Bam Adebayo, he only had 1 year. Jason Tatum's been doing this since his rookie year, and he's gotten better each year. So if you want to talk max contracts, Jason Tatum deserved his just as much as Adebayo and just as much as Donovan Mitchell has, because I can only say Bam has had 1 complete season. But when you look at the Eastern Conference, the way it's constructed right now, the Bucks did get Drew Holiday. Now you have a competent third weapon because Eric Bledsoe can't hit water when the playoff starts. How did Terry Rozier get that contract, by the way? It wasn't because of the fact he played in Boston. He had T-shirts made because he basically terrorized Eric Bledsoe in that entire series. Not Drew Bledsoe, who was wearing the T-shirt, but Eric Bledsoe. Okay? That's why he's gone. Drew Holiday's a top 30 player in the league, and it goes to the Bucks. The Bucks have to be the favorite. Now, if they would have kept their mouth shut and basically not tampered with Bojan Bogdanovic, they would have been the heads-on favorite. But aren't we forgetting a team in New York City? I don't mean the Knicks. We're forgetting the Brooklyn Nets. You forget they're getting back a top 3 player. Well, you obviously disrespected them pretty badly because you didn't mention them with the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Remember, Brooklyn was a 7th seed with Kyrie Irving playing 20 games and Kevin Durant in street clothes. What? Yes, it might look like a train wreck potentially, but Brooklyn's not playing for the regular season. They're just making sure that those two stay healthy by the time we get to June. And when they get to June and Kevin Durant is looking at you in the face, as long as that Achilles is out there, as long as his Achilles is 90% healthy, he destroys everybody in the Eastern Conference.
I have to retort.
Not to have Brooklyn on your top 3 is disrespectful. Yes, Nick Nurse, okay. Serge Ibaka is gone. Ibaka wasn't coming back to Orlando, by the way. Did we go through this one time already? He wasn't coming back. He didn't want to be here. I covered the year where Ibaka was here. Ibaka didn't want to be here. That was the most awkward timing I've ever. That was arguably the most awkward 5 months I've ever seen covering a locker room. The guy didn't want to be here. All right. He had broken with Kerry Hilson, and it disappointed me as well because I wanted to see Kerry Hilson sitting courtside. But what I'm saying is, he didn't want to be here, so Orlando was never an option. They lost Ibaka. Yes, they lost Marc Gasol, but they added Aaron Baines. And he's in Michael's neck of the woods. Aaron Baines was phenomenal with the Suns last year. He showed a 3-point shot. He spread the floor. He set screens and basically allowed DeAndre Ayton, who doesn't want to play center, to play power forward. Now you go to Nick Nurse and his team. They returned everybody. Fred VanVleet resigned. They resigned Chris Boucher. They positioned themselves perfectly, didn't kill the cap, and they still can land Giannis next summer with no issues with him and Siakam and Fred VanVleet to run the Eastern Conference. As of right now, disrespecting the Brooklyn Nets is really a bad thing. You only put the Nets down if Kevin Durant isn't healthy. But if he's healthy and he can survive the first 3 months of the season and get himself back in game shape, Alex, I will put some lemon Lou pepper wings from Magic City, and I mean a 24 pace, that Brooklyn will tear through the Eastern Conference if Durant's healthy. And I'll hand deliver them to you in Florida. I will hand deliver them to you if they don't.
I want that deal. Now, allow me to retort. Funny thing I told Mr. Wilson while we were doing the Magic Perspective all last season before COVID hit. Do you know the record of the Brooklyn Nets with and without Kyrie Irving? They were better without him. Now you're going to have a first-time coach, Steve Nash. He deserves it. I'm not going to go down that path. But you're going to have a first-time coach who's going to have his bumps and bruises. And you just admitted it. Is Durant healthy? Is he okay? Is he going to be able to stand the entire wherewithal of the season? You just saw what happened to Klay Thompson, and he was just shooting in drills. Kevin Durant looks a little bit fragile. So you have all these key pieces trying to build a team like the Tampa Bay Bucks, if you will. All that talent doesn't equal success. You have to put that on the court and make things happen. Yeah, you're in the top 5. He asked for top 2. They didn't make my top 2. And as far as Giannis is concerned, you gave up multiple first picks, Eric Bledsoe, and George Hill so you can land Drew Holiday. Congratulations. You got rid of DiVincenzo as well. You don't have a bench. So whenever people get tired, what are you going to do against Miami and Toronto, who's got scoring on and off the bench and they actually can play some defense? Giannis has been exposed not once, but twice in these playoffs. Once to Toronto, once to Miami. I have the number 3. He asked for the top 2.
Remember, DiVincenzo never got traded. The trade got rescinded, so he's still in Milwaukee.
Congratulations, you have one role player.
Number 2, Drew Holiday is better than what Eric Bledsoe ever could be on his best day. Remember, Alex, you hit as many shots as playoffs as Eric Bledsoe did against the Miami Heat. Okay? Eric Bledsoe is a third-string NFL quarterback. He is Nathan Peterman in the playoffs. Okay? And now you replace it.
That's wrong.
Ask Bucks fans. They'll tell you. They packed the U-Haul truck.
Too. Sorry, Alex, I don't mean to pile on you here, but ask Suns fans too, when you're sitting at a hair salon with your wife saying, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, cool, go to Milwaukee. You couldn't deliver with Giannis. And I would still take Drew Holiday because when Rondo, to your point, when Rondo was in New Orleans, that was obviously Anthony Davis's furthest run into the playoffs. And I got to see them play in Phoenix twice. Man, Rondo made all the difference, but he was so important to Drew Holiday's growth. I'm not saying Drew Holiday's Rondo because, well, he can shoot better than Rondo. But that being said, like, getting Drew Holiday from Milwaukee is so much better. I was waiting for you to finish, but it's so much better than Eric Bledsoe. And look, I like Bledsoe as a player. I just think I would take Drew Holiday over him at this stages in their careers. I'd take Drew Holiday hands down.
All right, gentlemen, I got about 5 more minutes and we got to wrap this up. So really quick, I want to go around the horn here with you. And I just got one question, gentlemen. Lakers or Clippers? I got to know which LA team is going to be represented in not only the Western Conference Final, but potentially the NBA Finals. So, Alex, I'm going to start with you. Give you about 60 seconds.
I hate to say it, but it's the Lakers. A good team got better. If they retain Anthony Davis, you just got Montrezl Harrell. You got rid of Dwight Howard, but you really didn't need him. This is probably LeBron Swan's song on his 5th attempt to get a 5th ring. Actually, it's his 10th attempt if we're going to be technical, but that's neither here nor there. You ship off Danny Green. You get younger. You get lighter. You get fresher. The Clippers aren't ready for that smoke. They really aren't. And I don't trust Paul George. It's the Lakers.
Danny, who you got?
I don't need 60 seconds. It's the Lakers.
Okay. Mike?
Sweet. I'll take a few extra. If I had to take between those two, I actually, because, and Alex said it, and it pains me to say this, but the Lakers, because I don't trust Paul George. I do trust Kawhi, and I think Kawhi can get it done with pieces around him, yes. But I'm sorry. Staying healthy, and it's a big hit. Clay's out, but the California team I'm taking is the Warriors to go back to the finals because everybody's talking about the Lakers. You get Steph Curry back. I'm sorry, Steph Curry's still better than any shooter the Lakers have or Clippers because he is the best shooter of all time. That being said, like they stay healthy with Draymond Green, you get Wiseman. Yeah, he's young. Dude, I'll roll with the Northern California team in the Warriors. But to answer your question, you know what? Screw it. I'm going different. I'm going Clippers because I can't stand the Lakers, and that's why. So I will be the kid on Sesame Street where 3 of these kids are doing the same and one doesn't belong. I'm fine with that. But screw that. I'm all about Kawhi. He'll make Paul George step up like a man, and if not, maybe Kawhi punches him on the court. Who knows? But all I'm saying is go Clippers, but I got the Warriors taking it, baby.
All right, fair enough.
One thing that you didn't mention, Dallas is a player away from being quite dominant.
Yeah,
I'm not sleeping on this year's MVP of Luka Doncic.
Oh, true.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Danny is yawning, so we're going to save that conversation for another time. Gentlemen, I appreciate all 3 of you tonight here on The Magic Perspective with Alex and Eric. 3-Point Conversion Sports Talk Show. Mr. Danny Thompson, Believe in the Pac-12 podcast. Mr. Michael Carrottenuto, and of course, my partner, Mr. Alex Fleming, for the Sun Review and Fantasy and Flavors. Gentlemen, everyone have a great night. If I don't talk to you gentlemen before Thursday, everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. We will definitely see y'all over the weekend. Be safe, be kind, wear a damn mask, and let's get back to doing what we love to do. Peace.